On Easter Sunday, my dad sent our family the note that he had sent to his full embassy staff. He said, and I quote, "This weekend marks 1 year since I came to serve as ambassador. On my first full day in Jerusalem, I went to the Western Wall to place a prayer that President Trump had handwritten and given to me in the Oval Office to bring on behalf of the American people. 2 days later, Janet and I attended the Easter sunrise service at the Garden Tomb. It was a wonderful beginning to the adventure of a lifetime. In 1 year, we've lived through 5 wars with Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, the 12-day war with Iran last summer, and now Operation Epic Fury. Tomorrow will be a very different kind of Easter for us than last year. The sunrise service at the Garden Tomb is canceled for safety concerns. If churches meet at all, they will be limited to no more than 50 people or less, depending on their shelter capacity. Perhaps you think that I'm deeply depressed by such a somber atmosphere and very limited options for public worship this Easter. But while there is some personal disappointment, my faith is fueled not by how full the churches or how special the services are. It is fueled by the emptiness of the tomb. Signed, Mike Huckabee. If you hear nothing else I say today, hear this. Jesus is our living hope for each of us, for our state, for our country. America was founded 250 years ago as one nation under God. We have our differences, but our shared faith, our shared values, and our shared love of the people of Arkansas is stronger and more important than any difference. The people of Arkansas sent each one of us here to work together to solve problems and lead a better, more prosperous state. 250 years ago, our founders put aside their differences to create a new nation forged around the ideals of liberty and justice. We are heirs to that great country, and we should do the same. The immediate threats our founders faced were very different, but the challenges so many Arkansans face every day is no less daunting. Despite adversity, there is hope. We live in the best state in the greatest country in the world, and the state of our state has never been stronger. Not long ago, my husband Brian and our 10-year-old son George were driving to a friend's hunting camp. It was late, they had the music on, and George put down the window to look up at the stars. He said to Brian, "It should be a rule that you can never live somewhere you can't see the stars." After a successful hunt the next morning, they were driving back home, and George said, "Daddy, I've made my decision. I'm going to live here in the Delta when I grow up. It has it all. You can farm, you can hunt, you can fish, and you can see the stars." Moments I share with my kids often remind me of what's really important and just how blessed I am. The work we do here is ultimately not about us, but about the next generation, to make Arkansas a land of unlimited opportunity for our kids and our grandkids. Congratulations, Senator. But the Arkansas we know and love in all of its beauty and its extraordinary potential will not be the one that our kids inherit if we don't fight for it. Since I stood before you in this chamber last year, President Trump was sworn in for a second historic term, and he has made quick work of his many campaign promises. Our country's border is no longer open. Tax cuts from his first term are now permanent. Our enemies abroad actually fear us. He exposed government waste, and the common sense values that made our country great are once again guiding us forward into another golden age of America. And President Trump has no greater friend than the people of Arkansas. At the end of last year, I started the Faces of Arkansas program, which every month tells the story of a different Arkansan who's impacted by the work that each of us do here. Their portraits hang in my office as a reminder of our top priority, the people of our state. Today, I'm not here just to talk about policies, but to share the stories and the faces of Arkansans who are counting on us to make a real difference in their lives. You all know that my first policy priority as governor has been education. And 3 years after the LEARNS Act was signed into law, we have an incredible story that we can all be proud of. Reading scores in every single grade level but one have gone up. And literacy coaches are now working in every D and F-rated school in the state of Arkansas. Three years ago, our schools were ranked 43rd in the country. Now we're 36th, and I know that we will only keep moving up. With us today is Kevin from Tiller, Arkansas. He's a senior at Cornerstone Christian. Before the LEARNS Act, Kevin's family would never have been able to afford private school tuition. So they were resigned to Kevin being in a struggling assigned school. However, 2 years ago, because of the EFA program created by LEARNS, Kevin was able to enroll in Cornerstone Christian. Thanks to Cornerstone's Learning Lab, he saw enormous growth in his academics. And for the very first time in school, he had hope for the future. He's now taking welding classes at the U of A's technical school campus in McGee. At the end of the year, Kevin hopes not only to graduate with his high school diploma, but also be well on his way to his welding certificate in a great career right here in Arkansas. You helped make that happen. Thank you, Kevin. Kevin, thank you for not giving up and showing the power of grit and hard work. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. We hear stories like Kevin's everywhere we go. Melissa Ferguson is a mom of two who lives in Northwest Arkansas. The Fergusons are a military family and have 2 kids with learning differences. Melissa knew her kids needed extra care and attention when learning, and who better to give it to them than herself? Through the EFA program, Melissa is able to homeschool her kids with specialized resources and individualized attention. Another student is a young woman I've had the privilege of knowing for a very long time. Easter Seals student, Allie. She's the daughter of one of my close friends from college. Although Allie has always been a happy kid, It was hard for her parents to find a sense of belonging for her. They wanted a place where she could find self-confidence and joy in everyday life, a place where Allie is really seen and known. They found that community at Easter Seals. Last spring, Allie got to participate in the Easter Seals fashion show. Most kids would be pretty nervous about something like that, but Allie wasn't. She talked about it for days ahead of time. And the night she finally got to put on her pink jumpsuit, she could not take enough pictures or practice enough walks down the runway. When Allie finally took the stage for the event itself, she walked that runway without a care in the world. That may not seem like a big deal, but for Allie, it's one of those life-changing, never forget experiences. And it was something that was only possible because of the specialized education that she receives at Easter Seals. You helped make that happen. A good education is the key that opens the door to a lifetime of opportunity. We cannot allow a child's destiny to be determined by their zip code or the size of their parents' bank account. We will honor our commitment to the next generation, and in Arkansas, no child will ever again be trapped in a failing school or sentenced to a lifetime in poverty. We will empower Arkansans with the opportunity to be everything that God created them to be. When you send me a budget, think of Kevin, think of Melissa, think of Allie, and think of the 44,000 other EFA students whose lives have been forever changed because we fully fund the LEARNS Act. We will not let them down. But LEARNS wasn't just about investing in education freedom. It was also the largest investment in public schools in Arkansas history. And a big part of that went exactly where it should, to our teachers, because we know that great education starts with great educators. We raised starting teacher pay from $36,000 to $50,000. We gave every single teacher in the state of Arkansas a $2,000 raise and became one of only 2 states in the entire country to give teachers 12 weeks of paid maternity leave. That's a big deal. I think I might become a teacher after this. Another program I'm really proud of is the Merit Teacher Incentive Fund, which in just the first 3 years has already delivered $30 million in bonus pay to more than 7,000 amazing educators. And one of those great teachers is here with us today, Monica Brewington, a 5th grade teacher from Pocahontas, Monica comes from a long line of educators, and she has spent the last 3 decades in the classroom. Monica's students love her, and she has built a legacy mentoring future teachers. Monica says she was always raised to do her best, with or without recognition. But when she got a call from her superintendent and heard that she was getting a $7,000 bonus through the Merit Teacher Incentive Fund, she felt like it had all paid off. She was finally being recognized for her hard work. A nationwide survey was just released this week that shows 89% of our teachers are satisfied with their jobs. Thanks to the LEARNS Act, Arkansas now ranks #1 in the nation for teacher job satisfaction. That matters because you can't have great schools without great teachers. While other states struggle to recruit and retain them, Arkansas is now the best state in America to be a teacher. Monica, we are inspired by what you do for your students. Thank you for your incredible work. When you send me a budget, think of Monica and every other teacher counting on our work here in Little Rock. But the progress doesn't end there. When I took office, only 35% of Arkansas kids could read at grade level. It was a crisis. By 3rd grade, a child must be able to read in order to learn. And way too many kids in Arkansas kept falling further and further behind. In case you didn't know, the L in LEARNS stands for literacy. We recognized if we don't address this crisis, we will not improve our schools. So through LEARNS, we funded and deployed 120 full-time literacy coaches and provided literacy tutoring grants for families. And now, in the most recent year for which we have data, 2,700 additional kids are reading at or above proficiency. Think of that. Think of that. 2,700 kids who, without LEARNS, would have left school completely unprepared to succeed. We are making tremendous strides and finally on the right track to improving public education in our state. Just a few weeks ago, I visited Merle Taylor Elementary in Jacksonville. Guess whose district that's in? It had consistently been the worst performing school in the district. It also serves kids who need more support than anywhere else. Over 60% of its students come from low-income families. But because of LEARNS, in just 3 years, this school has gone from an F-rated school to a B, and I know that they are headed for an A. And the woman who engineered that change is with us today, Principal Brandy Howell. She's the She's so good, I promise I'm going to give you a chance to clap for her again. She's the type of person I'd like to clone and put in every single school in our state. When I visited the school, I got to see her leadership firsthand. As we were leaving one of the classrooms we visited, Principal Howell called out, "Learning is what?" I expected the students to say something like fun or exciting. Instead, they responded, "Required." It's blunt, but it's true. If we want to see every student succeed and reach their full potential, learning must be required. But slogans are not the reason that Principal Howell has been successful. This is a school where teachers track every single one of their students' progress so that if they fall behind, they have access to early intervention provided by the LEARNS Act. They teach their kids to read using the data-proven science of reading, not experimental methods that have been tried and failed. And Principal Howell supports her teachers. When she took over the school, they had 13 staffing vacancies. Last year, they had 0. Principal Howell, thank you for fighting for your students, for setting the bar high and showing what is possible when we require learning. Thank you, Principal. When you send me a budget, think of Principal Howell and the students that our great educators serve every single day. A few years ago, I heard a story from 2 friends of mine in Pine Bluff, Bill and Sherry Jones. Bill and Sherry are successful business owners. When their son was younger, Bill coached his baseball team. The first year he coached, Bill noticed that his team was absolutely stacked with talent. But despite his players' athleticism, they couldn't win. Bill enlisted his wife to help him figure out what the disconnect was. Sherry came to practice and quickly realized that the players were hungry. Many of the kids weren't being fed regularly at home. So Sherry started bringing food to every practice, and not just orange slices and juice boxes, but full meals. She told her husband to hold more practices so she could be sure that they had dinner. She paid out of pocket to feed her son's entire team, just so some kids in the Delta didn't go to bed hungry. That team went on to win 3 championships. One of the most heartbreaking challenges that families in poverty struggle with is food insecurity, which is why we made sure, with the work of this group, that every single student can get free breakfast at school. And we set up summer food programs so kids are getting meals even when they're not on campus. You helped make that happen. When you send me a budget, think of every child in this state who would go hungry without our work to prioritize them. Fully funding education makes up the largest portion of this year's budget request, but it's not the only priority my team focused on when crafting it. Another needed increase goes to those who protect and serve our state. Years ago, other cities and states made the disastrous decision to defund their police. Arkansas went the opposite direction. We fund our police and we will back the blue every single day in this state. From the PROTECT Act to Death by Delivery to the Defense Against Criminal Illegals Act, we have fought to give law enforcement the tools they need to do their job and protect our Kansans. We put a law and order and rehabilitation-focused majority on the Board of Corrections. We ensured the most violent criminals serve their full sentence. We've opened 1,500 new beds at existing prison facilities, and we created a recidivism pilot program to get inmates back in the workforce and kept off the streets once they've served their time. In 2024, I announced a new state employee pay plan to give our heroes in law enforcement and our corrections officers the raises that they deserve. In this year's budget, we are fully funding that commitment. At the end of last year, our latest troop school graduated and was led by Trooper Bailey Bowers. Trooper Bowers started in law enforcement as a state trooper in his home state of Michigan. But 3 years into his career up north, he wanted a change. The pay raise we provided to new state troopers encouraged Bailey to make the leap and enroll in troop school in Arkansas. But money wasn't the only thing that brought him here. He also valued leadership. And when he arrived at the troop school, he was able to focus on his 3 priorities: God, family, and the Arkansas State Police. He says it meant something that there were Bibles in the barracks and that he and a group of other troop school students could gather after lights out and pray. Today, Trooper Bowers is based at Troop L in Northwest Arkansas, and he is just one of many state troopers who have come to our state because of competitive pay, a great environment, and a state that will always protect our people and always stand with our law enforcement. Trooper Bowers, thank you for your service. We are so grateful for our heroes in uniform. Thank you, Trooper Bowers. When you send me a budget, think of Trooper Bailey Bowers and all the men and women of law enforcement who keep us safe and are counting on us to back them up. The budget we work together to pass doesn't just invest in education. It doesn't just invest in public safety. It doesn't just invest in our most vulnerable. It also holds the line on out-of-control growth of government. And I know that that hasn't been easy. I tasked our state agencies to do more with less, so we can deliver savings while still providing quality service and investing more in our key priorities. Thank you to the members of the cabinet who are in the back of the room who have helped make that possible. You guys are doing an amazing job. Best team in the country. My Arkansas Forward initiative plays a key part in that effort. For example, we had unused phone and fax lines, but we were still paying monthly contracts on them. Arkansas Forward cut those and is now saving taxpayers $1.4 million every year just getting rid of something we weren't using. We renegotiated contracts with child welfare providers to return $5.2 million to the state. We brought a costly web application contract at the Office of Early Childhood in-house, saving us $2.4 million. In total, Arkansas Forward has identified at least $300 million in savings and is working rapidly toward implementing those efficiencies. In the meantime, you and I have worked together to cut our state income tax by over 20% in the last 3 years, returning more than $1 billion back to taxpayers.